November 1965, through North Vietnam skies, rescue pilots searched the jungle floor. Captain Richard Hall was down, his Thunder Chief was lost. No parachute was seen midst battle's roar. Missing in action, prisoner of war. Upon a list his name has got to stay. And if he's killed in action, his wife will surely stay. Please keep him on that list as MIA.
If you could remain standing for a few more moments, folks. And again, thank you for coming to our second POW MIA Memorial Service. At this time, I would like Correctional Officer Richard Gamble from the Essex County Sheriff's Department, Sergeant in the United States Army, and Essex County Correctional Officer Heath Coburn, Staff Sergeant in the United States Army, to approach to assist with the raising of the flag while Sergeant Ian Zanini of the Essex County Sheriff's Department sings our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Staff Sergeant Jerome Jellison, Charlie Company 181 Infantry, Massachusetts Army National Guard. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
In the audience today, Representative James Kelcourse, Representative Ted Spiliotis, Senator Brendan Crichton, Representative Brad Hill, Rick Jakakis from Congressman Seth Moulton's office, Karen Tyler, Director of Veteran Services from Ipswich, Luz Semaglia, Director of Veteran Services from Wilmington, hope I got that pronunciation correct, Debbie Shields, Secretary for Rolling Thunder of Massachusetts, Richard and Christine Moody, Operation Troop Support, Doug Bryant, donating book to library, Kim Emmerling, Director of Veteran Services from Salem, Chief Michael McGeary from the City of Lynn Police Department, Captain Scott McNamara from the City of Lawrence Police Department. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sheriff Coppinger, and once again, I appreciate you coming here today. It is a pleasure to once again stand before you here on National POW MIA Day to honor those who are prisoners of war, as well as those who remain missing in action. It is a time for us to honor and show our support for their sacrifice. It is also a time for us to stand with families still awaiting word on their loved ones and to let them know they do not stand alone. Statistics show that there are still more than 1,600 soldiers missing from the Vietnam War, let alone the countless thousands from all the other wars combined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them all. We must always remember, and we must never cease our efforts to bring them all home. Last year, as many of you will recall, we had a rededication of this unique memorial honoring the Vietnam veterans of Massachusetts. Following that ceremony, we learned that 10 names were omitted during its construction, as those remains were returned to home prior to the monument being unveiled. These soldiers gave their ultimate sacrifice and are being honored here today with their fellow brothers. But before we continue, please allow me a few minutes to reflect upon the history here in Essex County and the significance of what you are looking at. In March of 1993, the Essex County Correctional Facility Veterans Support Group initiated the effort to erect the MIA Remembrance Memorial. In March of 1994, the memorial was unveiled on Vietnam Veterans Appreciation Day in the Commonwealth. It was funded by private donations, and it's the only memorial in Massachusetts dedicated to those Massachusetts soldiers missing in action. It is constructed from black marble and stands 7 feet high, 4 feet wide, and 10 inches deep. At the top of the monument, you will see inside the engraved dog tag on the left appears the date 1965, representing the year of America's full troop deployment in Vietnam. The dog tag on the right is blank, signifying the Massachusetts soldiers still missing in action. There is an insignia of a diamond placed to the left of the name of any listed serviceman returning from action after the monument was erected. The circles on the left of the monument are the emblems of the United States Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Circles on the right of the monument are the emblems of the American Legion, the American veterans, disabled American veterans, veterans of foreign wars, and Vietnam veterans of America. The USS Constitution is depicted at the bottom of the monument in recognition of the fact that Old Ironsides was the first naval ship to have anchored in Da Nang Harbor, Vietnam on May 10th, 1885. The soldiers on this monument and countless others have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country and our freedom. We are gathered here today to honor that sacrifice and pledge to never forget. At this time, I'd like to invite Essex County Sheriff Captain Arthur Stachesny, Technical Sergeant, United States Air Force Reserve, and Essex County Sheriff's Department Correctional Officer Brandon Anderson Sergeant in the United States Army, to come up for the missing man ceremony.
As you arrived to this event this morning, you may have noticed a small table of honor. It is set for one. Please, let me explain. The military case is filled with this symbolism. The table is our way of symbolizing the fact that members of our profession of arms are missing from our midst. They are commonly called prisoner of war, missing in action. We call them brothers. They are unable to be with us this morning, and so we remember them. The table, set for one, is small, symbolizing frailty of one prisoner alone against his oppressor. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember. The single yellow rose, symbolizing remembrance, displayed in the vase, reminds us of families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who keep their faith, awaiting their return, lest we forget. Remember. The red ribbon tied so prominently on this vase is reminiscent of their red ribbon worn upon their lapel and breast of thousands who bear witness to their unyielding determination to demand proper accounting of their missing. Remember. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate. Remember. There is salt upon the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this morning. Remember. The chair is empty. They are not here. Remember. Remember all of you who served with them and called them comrades, who depend upon their might and aid and relief upon them, for surely they have not forsaken you. Remember. Thank you.
Folks, I would also just like to take one moment to recognize Senator Bruce Tarr, who has joined us. At this time, I'd like to call up Essex County Sheriff's Captain Shane Ehlers, Specialist in the United States Army, and Essex County Sheriff's Office Correctional Officer John Cassidy, Staff Sergeant, United States Air Force, for the reading of the names.
The following soldiers continue to be missing in action. Bruce Raymond Baxter, Eugene Paul Beresk, Kenneth Allen Berube, Warren William Bowles, Russell Peter Bott, Deverton C. Cochran, Joseph Patrick Dunn, John Stiles Earl, William D. Frawley, Roger Conrad Gahan, Richard Gamble Graves, Joseph G. Greenleaf, Robert H. Gerzid, Richard K. Harper, Robert D. Howard, John Robert Henn, Jr., Henry Howard Heron, Jr., David Hughes Holmes, Daniel M. Kelly. Everett O. Kerr, Paul Chester King, Jr., Gerald Francis Kinsman, Michael J. Custon, John Murray Lever, Jr., Henry Elmer McCann, James A. Magnuson, Jr., Arthur V. McLaughlin, Jr., Carlton Pierce Miller, Jr., Richard G. Morin. William Francis Mullen. John F. Overlook. John Robert Painter, Jr. Edward Francis Rogers. James J. Sansone. William F. M. Smith. Martin Joseph Sullivan. Robert J.C. Todd. Orrin J. Walker. Monek Wheats.
The following soldiers have had their remains returned: Alan Jones Avery, Charles Lawrence Bifulci, John Arthur Boronsky, Alan Philip Collimore Jr., Joseph Francis Cook, Paul Stephen Srizwanka, Paul Nicholas Donato, Robert Malcolm Elliott, Joseph E. Fitzgerald, Robert Allen Holt, Leonard Lee Castor, Hubert B. Lougheed, Kenneth Dewey McKenney, Howard D. Stevenson, Craig Houston Waterman, David J. Wax. The following names had been missing in action and have had their remains returned prior to this monument being unveiled in 1994. We have added these names to recognize their sacrifice: Wayne Klaus Allen, William Francis Coakley, Richard A. Fitz, Frederick Thomas Garside, Arthur Hans Hardy, Charles McMahon Jr., William Joseph McCrae, James Edward Sullivan, Edwin Byron Tucker, and Blair C. Ware.
At this time, taps will be played by Alex Patton, Senior at Lynn English High School.
Thank you, Sheriff, and good morning to each and every one of you all. It is a somber event here today as we remember those who have not yet returned home. And my message today this morning is simple. One of thank you and appreciation to all of you all who have come here to remember and to vow to never forget. And so on behalf of our Governor, Charlie Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, 365,000 veterans who call Massachusetts home, and their families, it is a privilege to lead the Department of Veteran Services in all of our initiatives focused on recognizing, ensuring that we connect those veterans and their families with the benefits and the safety net programs that they have earned, and to provide a path of self-sufficiency for veterans and families in need. And so to our partners in the legislature, to Senator Charge, to Senator Crichton, to Rep. Speliotis, to Rep. Kelcourse, Representative Hill, thank you. You know, the work that you all do in the legislature each and every year, ensuring that there's a bill focused on veterans, focused on veterans' families, is extremely important. To that, I thank you for your partnership, your leadership, and more importantly, your vision to ensuring that our veterans and their families are not forgotten. To Sheriff Coppinger and to your men and women, thank you for what you do here each and every day, the level of compassion, the level of ensuring that the inmates who are behind these walls get the services and the treatment that they deserve, to ensure that they return to our communities better than when they came in here, to ensure that they succeed upon returning to our communities. To the trainees, you look sharp this morning. Had an opportunity to see some of you all. Very proud of the steps that you all are taking to ensure that you continue to provide and to follow the footsteps of so many who have worn your uniform, and to see that you provide that sense of service that you will hear soon. You know, as we read these names, we need to remember that there are families behind them. Families like Joyce Dalton, who you will hear from, the sister of Ronald Dow Eaton. Fathers like Arthur Hardy, Gordon Hardy, son of the father of Arthur Hardy. And these two families are here. I'm going to ask them to stand. I want you all to recognize them with a round of applause, because they deserve nothing less. Thank you. You know, since World War II, 82,296 service members have left neighborhoods across our country, cities and towns, to serve in many capacities, whether that was World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, and some even in some peacetime, and have not returned home. 2,898 men. 2,898 men are from Massachusetts. Those 2,898 have yet to return. I know that our government is actively looking for so many of them. We saw earlier this year in the peace talks and negotiations of North Korea, those 55 remains. I know that Joyce and many of us are extremely excited, in a sense, because that opportunity gives a sense of closure to so many families who are waiting. Over the last 3 years, I have personally seen 7 remains return home, and the sense of closure that it provides those families, a sense of, it's sometimes tough to put the sense of words behind those feelings. Some families did not know that they have a missing loved one. The parents never shared it. Sometimes they were the single carrier of the bloodline, and maybe a cousin or a nephew or the next of kin is not as close, is not as aware of the two families that we see here today. But nonetheless, they were service members wearing our nation's uniforms. Service members who vowed to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Service members who were doing their duties and did not return home. And so the difference between the Gold Star families and these prisoners of war families, missing in action families, is that the Gold Star families had that opportunity to start their sense of closure. But to those 2,898 families, they do not yet have that opportunity. They do not have a headstone in a cemetery where they can lay flowers. They do not have a memorial where they could have that peace and those conversations that they yearn for. And so it is in days like today that we must continue to remind those who have the opportunity to continue not to give up, to fund the programs of recognition and identification that happens in a laboratory in Hawaii, where remains arrive, where DNA is matched, and where remains get repatriated, again, to cities and towns across our nation. We often do not hear of those coming home unless they have a sense of connection to us here in Massachusetts. But about each and every month, about 2 or 3 remains do travel across the country, and honors are rendered to those men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice and are finally coming home. To all of you all who continue to wear our nation's uniform in active duty service, thank you for your commitment to continue to serve. You represent the 1% of our nation wearing such uniform, standing guard, standing tall and ready to protect our freedoms that we hold so dear. And to the officers who wear and who respond to emergencies. I see Captain McNamara, a friend from Lawrence. Thank you for the resiliency. You know, what the city of Lawrence, North Andover, and Andover went through the last 10 days, it shows the very best in community. It shows the very best in sister communities who responded and continue to provide that sense of mutual aid support that these communities are such in need of. And it showed the very best in neighbors, helping neighbors, and friends meeting others to ensure that those families have what they are now missing. And know that while the emergency is not over, while everybody has returned home, those communities have a long way to becoming whole again. And we just are so thankful for all those who are constantly working to bring those families back to a sense of normalcy. So, in bringing it back to our ceremony here today, I thank you all for being here, taking the time to remember, but know that each and every day there are families that are associated with these names and many others, and know that they hold an empty place in their home, in their dinner tables, waiting for that news to finally come home. Thank you so very much. God bless in each and every one of you all. And Sheriff, thank you once again. I know that last year was a dedication. Now it has become a tradition. And I look forward to continuing to honor these men whose names are on this wall. And may we add more diamonds as they return home. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Secretary. And quickly to Mr. Hardy, I just want to echo the Secretary's comments. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your family. And believe me, as you know, Captain Hardy's name has now been memorialized on the wall, and he will not be forgotten. Thank you again. Folks, if you look on the back of the program booklet, you'll see a picture that I was given at the end of last year's ceremony by Mr. Edward Bradstreet. That photo was taken at the 1994 dedication of this memorial, and I would just like to recognize Mr. Bradstreet and thank him for the picture. Please join me in a round of applause. Our keynote speaker today is Joyce Dalton of Wilmington, Massachusetts. Mrs. Dalton's brother, Ensign Ronald Dow Eaton, served bravely as a pilot for the United States Navy during the Korean War. On June 25, 1952, while flying a mission in the Wonsan area of North Korea, Ensign Eaton went missing in action. His body has not been recovered to this day. He was 22 years old. For 66 years, Mrs. Dalton and her family have grieved and lived with the unknown in regards to what happened to their brother. She is here today to share with us her thoughts and experiences over those years. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Joyce Dalton.
Before I begin, I would like to introduce my sister and my brother who are here. My sister Verly and my brother Wayne. I also have my daughter and my husband, my two sister-in-laws, and a friend, all here. So good morning, and thank you, Sheriff Coppinger, for inviting me to say a few words today. It is days like today that mean so much to myself, my family, and to all Gold Star families across our great country. We live with the fact that our brothers, sisters, mums, and dads will never come home. Some never had the chance to wed, have children, and raise a family. To me, it is important to remember the families that have sacrificed so much. I have been fortunate to live in a community that always remembers, not just Memorial Day, but every day. I remember the day I heard about my brother, Ronald Dow Eaton, Ronnie as he was known, missing in action Wednesday, June 25th, 1952. I was sent home early from work due to the heat. There wasn't any air conditioning at Jordan Marsh in Boston, where I worked as a billing clerk. My mother was sewing in the back room, and she asked me to answer the knock on the door. I believe in my heart that she knew what that knock on our door was for. When I opened the door, there was a cab driver standing there, and he handed me the telegram, which I thought was very cold. Little did I know that at that moment, my family's life would be forever changed. My brother, Ensign Ronald Dow Eaton, had been shot down in Korea. At that moment, we did not know he had survived being shot down, but was later killed in action during the rescue mission that was launched to rescue him. It was a mission he did not have to go on, but volunteered for. There is a book, Baited Trap, that was later written explaining in detail about the men that perished that fateful day. Ronnie was known as the Hard Luck Kid. On his way to Korea, he was taxiing his plane on the ship, the USS Bonhomme Richard. When the ship dipped, he went overboard. Ronnie managed to get out of the plane and inflate his vest, but his ship could not find him. Another ship picked him up and held him for ransom, the ransom being ice cream. Later, Ronnie wrote down his thoughts on the events of this night. Pilots were needed for this night, just for taxi, not for flight. The plane I manned was number 7. The plane ahead was number 11. Start the props soon was heard. With the signal, I was concerned. From man to man, I was passed. At my final spot, I was at last. Cut your engine. Hold your brake. This was done with rapid rate. I was told she wasn't cocked, so I kept my brakes locked. Very soon the man returned. He looked at me much concerned. The night was dark, but who would think my plane would roll into the drink? Without delay, the plane did sink, and soon the carrier ship was indistinct. In my mind, there came in sight my girl's face like a shining light. Up swam I from the mast, then pulled the toggles of my Mae West. This was done with much success, and CO2 went in my vest. Man overboard, the ship horn blast. Not long before had the ship's crew posted. A plane high above circled round. This kept my hopes I'd be found. I tried it once to use a flare. The first one gave me slight despair. Boy, lucky me, I had a pair. The second attempt lit quite fair. The waves above were rising steep, and the sea below was plenty deep. With huge lights the ship did seek. One would hit me and then retreat. Planes still searched from the sky. I held my vest light way up high as the tin can came nearby. To myself I heaved a sigh. With all my might I did shout, having every hope they would pull me out. A yellow light and then a boat. I thank God I was still afloat. Sometimes the Korean War is called the Forgotten War, and I can't begin to explain how important it is to Gold Star families to know that our loved ones are not forgotten and did not die in vain. My sister Verly and I have been fortunate to have been invited to many events, including a trip to South Korea in May 2017. I had the opportunity to go to the demilitarized zone where I felt close to him. Later, while looking at a map, I realized I was, in fact, not far from Ronnie's last known location. The South Koreans are incredibly thankful for the Americans, especially General MacArthur for saving South Korea. Many times I heard that if it weren't for him, there wouldn't be a South Korea. The citizens were so appreciative that, with the exception of purchasing the airplane tickets at a discount, all expenses were paid. The welcome we received upon arrival at the hotel, you would have thought we were royalty. I encourage Gold Star families whose loved ones was lost in Korea to take advantage if they have the opportunity to go to South Korea. My sister Verlie and I were also invited to Washington, D.C. in 2007. We had our picture taken with President Bush, 2017 to 2018. In closing, the recent transfer of remains from North Korea to the United States gives my family, including my sister Verlie and brother Wayne, who are here today, and all families who still have a loved one missing, some hope that our loved ones will return and may be laid to rest with a proper burial. I would also like to thank Secretary Arena for offering my name for this honor today, and thank him for his caring and the compassion he shows to all Gulf Star families. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to ask the North Shore men to sing God Bless America for us.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. My home, my home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. America, my home.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was wonderful. And if I could invite the Reverend DeCarlin back to the podium for our closing prayer.
Almighty God, we thank you for the silence, the time to pray and be together. We thank you for the blessings you have so graciously bestowed upon us in our lifetimes. May we always be grateful for what you and others are doing for us. We ask your blessing upon all those who have served our country and presented themselves before you. Bless our country and bless those who continue to seek the release and return of our prisoners of war and those missing in action. You are our strength and hope, and to you we give thanks now and forever. Amen.
This concludes our ceremony. Everyone, thank you again for attending. As the Secretary said, this is event number 2. We will be here every year on National POW MIA Day to make sure that we do not forget. Thank you again.
In November 1965, through North Vietnam skies, rescue pilots searched the jungle floor. Captain Richard Hall was down, his Thunder Chief was lost. No parachute was seen amidst battle's roar. Missing in action, prisoner of war. Upon a list his name has got to stay. And if he's killed in action, his wife will surely stay. Please keep him on that list as MIA. MIA, POW, which will it be? Oh Lord, don't make it KIA. MIA, POW, will he live again? Captain Hall will find there